Welcome one and all, my name is Tawess and today we are going to paint an orc. Not just any orc, a very good orc in this case. And I mentioned this before, but among the things that I pay money for is a patron to the Artisan Guild, which is one of these companies that makes 3D models for home printing. And this particular model is from their Orc Barbarians set, and it's a set sort of inspired by World of Warcraft orcs. Not a direct rip-off, but definitely inspired. So I thought, why not make an orc in the image of the great Grom Hellscream? Warcraft 1, 2, 3 version, which is the green angry dude with long black hair. So, this model I started out with a simple basic dry brush of Caliban green over black base coat, and then I put on a wash of green contrast paint over that just to deepen the shadows a bit and mellow out the black. And once that was done, I took a mix of snot green and Caliban green and started dry brushing it. And the snot green is a dry brush color, so it's much thicker in consistency. I don't know, a lot thicker, but you get the idea. And the dry brush is fairly simple. I think I go over 3 stages, slowly but surely building up to lighter tones. And this of course is done on skin to get a nice gradient from shadows up to light skins. You can even get some specularity in there if you do washes, which says when light reflects from through the skin. But it's a complex technique and I can't do it, but you can if you're good. But yeah, I like dry brushing, and as mentioned by many people before, when you dry brush needs to be dry. You cannot use a wet palette for this. Well, you can keep the colors on a wet palette, but you still need a rag or something to wipe the brush on, because you need to get a lot of moisture out of it. That way the paint sort of dusts onto the raised areas and don't run into the cracks. This is the exact opposite of a wash, which the contrast paints are. They are wash paint. They are diluted, high flow version that just flows into everything, but it's fairly see-through on the other hand. So yeah, we brush up some nice green on him, and I mean, well, the World of Warcraft and Warcraft orcs, not the Maghar, the Mahar, how you pronounce it, Maghar, but the traditional ones, they were green, like properly pop art popping green. Trying to capture that is kind of difficult. That's a fun challenge. Now what I do now is just go over the black areas and cover over again once, because dry brushing is not an exact science, so there was some spillage. Color green has spilled over to other areas we're not supposed to be, so we touch up those with some black, and then apply some brown for the pants, and just start to dry brush on a little bit of silver and a little bit of brown leather, as I said already, a bit of brown leather. The silver I use is lead belcher, which is a one of these stable colors these days. I don't know if it was always called lead belcher or it was called something else before they renamed everything. But yeah, so again, we use this with a very dry brush to get a wrought iron feel. Because steel, very high shine, but wrought iron tends to have this darker complexity to it, darker tone. And to get that, we use a subtle dry brush of silver. In this case, lead belcher is a warm silver. You can use a cold silver too, but I feel like warm silvers work better. And this is only a stage where you do take your time, because you can go back over and over and over again, and every time you do it, you get a little bit more silver and a little bit less black. So you just do it carefully, work it in. There is not that much of a problem if you do something wrong, because you can just paint it over with black again and start over, because dry brushing does not add a lot of color. I like dry brushing. A bit too much in some cases. But yeah, I like dry brushing. It's a technique that I find very relaxing. Just see the magic happen. Now I should work on my blending skills because that's my weakness. But yeah. So applying some contrast paints to the leather and furs to make them a bit more textured. And I hope in this case be able to cheat by having to do blendings, because it felt a bit like a waste to blend on that guy. Contrast paints does a good job, if we mention it that way. Now, just picking out details, in this case with a Privateer Press P3, their Wraithbone equivalent, and it's a nice tan, sandy tan color. Not sure we can get it anymore. P3s last forever, and that bottle is probably 10 years old, 15 years old, 10 years old, I think, about a little bit over 10 years, because I mostly use it for small details and for mixing colors. It's a good medium to mix colors into if you want them to be paler, but not white paler, but yellowish paler. That's an important thing, by the way, when you mix colors, to know what you're blending them with. A cold color or a warm color, because it will change. I mean, if you want a cold color, you have to do bluish tones or a white. And if you're going to try and blend out a red, for example, you can't use a white because I'm going to go very sharp into like tentacle pink. No, you want something a bit warmer, a bit more sandy in color. Anyway, just applying some extra details at this point. Might seem I rushed through this, but to be quite honest, it was a lot of doing the same things all over again. And I mean, it's good, but it's not particularly fun to watch, is it? No. I mean, this entire video was close to 40 minutes long, unedited, and then I didn't even record all the steps because I skipped some really tedious parts to save on battery on my camera because it was running out. So yeah, I don't think you would want to see the entire thing. You might do that at some point, but not now. Not here. So yeah, going over with some red and some contrast paints will give us some pops of color. We painted the teeth, and we also apply some contrast paints to the teeth to darken them down a bit, because and now it can be hard to see, but what I do here is dot the eyes with white. Usually don't do eyes on my characters because, well, the eye is too small, but on this guy it makes sense because I'm gonna go in after this with a red contrast paint and just dot in a drop of it, giving him this really crazy reddish glowing eye without having to paint reddish glowing eyes on a surface area that is less than a millimeter. So yeah, it gives a nice sort of pop to it. I like that. Yeah, the inspiration here was basically Grom Hellscream. And I have a previous version. If you check my Instagram, you can see a version of him where he is in his Maghar pre-corruption version. Anyway, this is the final result. I hope you have enjoyed watching this. I hope I'll catch you soon. We are going to go review some new resins, if nothing else. So, until next time, stay safe, be kind, and do play fair. Bye.